Alright guys, well I'm back here on this John Deere 170. On a previous video I went in and repaired the steering gears and got rid of a lot of rust that was under here. It's looking pretty good now. But then I noticed the steering was still really tight, so I'll show you what I did to troubleshoot it. You know, I went back and pulled that gear back off, made sure everything was spinning freely, and then I disconnected the steering arm here to isolate it, you know, from the front to the steering gears. The gears are doing fine, and so it was on the front, so I put that back on, and then I disconnected, well, I'll show you, disconnected each wheel just trying to isolate it, and sure enough it's on the other side, the very last one I picked to do. And I'm going to try to fix that. So I guess I'll go through and fix the steering. Like I said, just go through all mechanically and get it all good and running. And I might go ahead and keep it, and I might go ahead and take everything off and give it a really good paint job. You can see where I did before, just trying to cover up, treat the rust, cover it up. I was like, man, I might as well just do a good job on it and restore it and keep it. But yeah, and you can see my shiner there. It's a beauty, ain't it? But well, let me show you what I've done. So when I first started, like I said, I disconnected the arm here so I can isolate it from the gears in the front end, and it was still kind of tight. So I put that back on. I know it's going to be up in the front somewhere, and I disconnected the rod here, and this side turned freely, and sure enough, you know, so I went over here, disconnected this side, and it's this spindle here is really tight. I hope it's not in too bad a shape. I'm gonna grease it up and work it back and forth, and maybe that'll free it up. Alright, so I found my grease gun, but I think what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take this snap ring off and see if I can drop the spindle down, because you can see the gap right here, so it's stuck up there. The other side is seated fine. But I'm going to see if I can't take this snap ring off and free it up a little bit. Or alright, so there's my snap ring. Let's see if I can get it down in there. There we go. Gotta be careful, can't let these things fly. 'Cause I'm out here in the yard. Hardware gets lost really quick. It's starting to free up. Thought it was. That made it even worse. Bearing must be just shot. I'm going to spray some PB blaster on it, or some WD-40 maybe. Alright, so I found some WD-40. Must be out of PB blaster. Let it soak in there. So I guess I'll let it sit for a little while and come back to it. In the meantime, maybe I'll go ahead and take the seat off, and so you can see where it's been sprayed over, but it's still rusting down underneath it, and a lot of overspray. So there's the seat safety switch, and let me take that off. Might as well get the seat brackets sanded down and repainted while I decide. I'm sure this is going to be a little longer term project. I don't have all day to spend on it, but I might go ahead and take the main body here off and give it a paint job too. And while it's off, yeah, you know, just do all the usual stuff trying to restore it. I have to say, I think it's a 1990 model, and there goes the AC behind me. These were made in 89 and 90. I don't know if it was a full 2 years of production or just a year and a half or whatever, but these didn't. This one's acting like it's trying to. You got me here somewhere. There we go. This bolt is going to drop if I don't watch out. Let's leave it right there. Decisions. Well, you know, I might as well take it off. I'm already this far. I've got a few hours I can spend on it today. So I'll take it off, get it ready for paint, extract this bolt, and then go back and check on that front right wheel. Alright, so let's take that sucker off. Alright, so I've almost got it all the way off. There was just a couple of bolts here, 2 up the front. Should have been 3, but that one's broken off. I started taking these off, and lo and behold, there's a spring just kind of hanging there. You can see how it's bent out of shape. So that's part of the problem. Almost got it. There's just 2 3/8 inch bolts and a couple little brackets. It should slide up out of there. Holding it up here. those bolts I was worried about. Alright. What is holding it? Alright. So it doesn't look too bad under here, does it? So what I'll do, oh, this might be easier to work on this little piece while I'm at it too. So I guess I'm going to be doing a back to front restoration. I'll clean all this off and paint what I can. Didn't look like there's a whole lot of rust under there. Then I'll go ahead and work on this. Yep, there's a little rust. Really not too bad, so I'll get that painted today. I'll paint that and the seat brackets there. Clean all that off, paint it, and while it's off, I will work on this little mechanism there, find out what's binding there. So while I got all this off, like these top brackets and some parts here, I might as well go ahead and paint now. It's not really that bad shape. There's just some spots where there's some slight rust, but everything back in here too, I'll get to it once I put everything back together, and I can take the rear wheels off when I jack it up, and I'll take care of the underside then. But you can see, like right up in here there was some rust, and back here was the worst part of it. You can see on that other video. But that seemed to do okay. I can see some spots where somebody else had tried to paint already. Fingers getting tired. Oh, I forgot I need to extract that bolt too. So, getting started with it. I sanded it all down. Wish I had the proper, like an angle grinder or something, but I coated it with this stuff, the rust reformer, and I did a trailer with it before, and it worked pretty good. So it goes on. You can still see some imperfections there. It's on there pretty good. Maybe if I sand that down and smooth it out, do that all the way around, especially on those spots, and then underneath, get all that, at least to stop the rust. I mean, it's going to look okay. Can't say that it's a full restoration job, but but it should look pretty good by the time it's finished. If I decide to keep it years later, I might do it again. It's easy to take apart, so if it needs it, I'll do it. But alright, so underneath, at least I was able to roughly sand it up, and I put that rust reformer on all the rust spots, you can see. And it dries pretty quick, so I'll be able to step in and, you know, give it a coat of green. Those little bracket pieces are turning out okay. I do need to get, it's real flat, so I need to go get some paint. I think I am out. One of these days I'm going to invest in some better tools for paint and body work, because I have 2 more mowers in line. This is really my first that I've, you know, done it half-ass. But at least this will stop the rust, and, you know, I can put it all together and actually use it for a while. And maybe down the line that'll be another project where I can take it apart and do a full, you know, restoration. But, you know, it's just not that bad right now. So, and I don't know how collectible these are, but it's just kind of fun. Alright, so I ran out of semi-gloss black. I thought I had some, but oh well. I mean, I can live with that for a little while, take them back off at a later date, and at least it's prevented from rust. And that I got a coat of green over it. You can see it's kind of sloppy up there. And I saw a couple of runs on that side. But at least this is the underside, and I got rid of the rust, right? I need to practice up on my paint and body work. But yeah, I got a bunch of stuff to do. Yeah, you can see up here, picked this off of a gentleman, just wanted it off his property. Coated with rust, but it just needs wheels. And this is, what is it, a harrow disc? And I'll tackle that one day too. But yeah, it's a lot of rust. But when I put this together, at least it'll look a little better than it did before. Plus out here, I need where I can spray it or have inside or something, because there's, whenever I spray outside like this, I always get some bugs that land on it, and, you know, dirt and dust. It's a pretty still day today. Slight breeze, but yeah, I always get, so it ends up, you know, looking pebbly and with some bugs that fly on it. But well, it's shaping up. I guess I'll fool around with this front wheel and see if it's freeing up any. And step by step, and while that other piece is drying, I'm going to dig down in here and find out where's the friction coming from. Something is something's binding everything up there. Well, let's see. So I was looking at this lever here. Now you can see so there's the end of it. That is supposed to be pushing down on this little bracket. And there's a nut you can see back in here that it rotates around. So the little axis there, it's not rotating. So I'm going to try to get in here somehow, underneath or somehow, where I can loosen this nut. And see if that loosens it up a bit. That's about the only thing I can see that it's binding. That should be pushing it down. Yeah, so I went and looked at a schematic online, and that's what it looks like. So it rotates around where that nut is, and the only way I can get it to move, let me get a bigger screwdriver. The only way I can get it to move is either tap it there. See, now it's down, but it won't pop back up. There it goes. Now it's back up. Not all the way. Okay, so if I can, I'm going to try to, I don't know if I can access this nut without taking all this stuff off, which kind of sucks. Alright, there's the ring. There we go. Maybe that'll give me enough clearance now to, I just want to loosen that up and see if that's what's causing the binding. Let me show you what I'm doing. Yeah, so there you can see the nut down in here that I'm trying to get to. At least I have a little clearance. I can reach it, but I have limited travel. But that's what I was trying to get to. Oh, I loosened it a little bit, but it didn't seem to help any. No, that did help. So let me show you. So there's the little plunger, and it is working. So I just loosened up that nut a little bit. Tap this back into place. That did it. Great. Let's put the pin back in. That got that. Alright, the other thing was, remember it had that spring, and I don't know where the spring went. It was the spring that we saw it was hanging loose there when I took the body of it off. It's supposed to lower the mowing deck and stop at some point where this, you set it with this, right? Can you see what I'm doing? So with this, you're supposed to set how far down you want the deck to go. Do you want it 1 inch, 4 inches from the ground, whatever? You shove this down, it stops at the notch wherever you set this at. But right here, it's not moving that little gear. You can see where it's notched, and that's where this is supposed to catch. But it is not moving at all. So we have another bind right there. Let's go underneath and check it out. Yeah, I don't know if you can see this with the lighting, but see this piece? Here's the lever that should be moving this whole thing back and forth. And it stays back in this position with that spring that we saw earlier that was just kind of hanging there. But this should be moving pretty free back and forth the way it is right now. It's held on right here at this pivot point. It looks like a bushing or something. I don't know if it's a bearing under here, but it's frozen. I'm having to pound on it back and forth. So I tried to get some WD-40 sprayed on this side, and I'm gonna hammer it back and forth and see if I can free it up so that this will move freely like it should. But I think that's it. If I can just get it free. I'm having to bang it here to move it that way, and then bang it up here on the ears to move it back. So it's bound pretty tight. But I think if I can get it to budge out back and forth and get some WD-40 or something in there to penetrate it, maybe that'll work. Alright, so I've been banging it back and forth, but you can see it's starting to loosen up. It still has the sticking points, and you can see the little piece there rotating around. So I'm sure it was just a bushing in there that's all corroded. I would like to be able to starting to get a little play. Not good enough. I think if I keep working it, it's going to free up, but I sure would like to pound that out, take the piece off and get all the corrosion out of it. But right now it's just working it back and forth after putting WD-40 on it. Had to bang it back and forth with my big hammer down there. But it's starting to free up. That didn't help. It's freeing up, but still doesn't have full range of motion though, I don't think. I'm going to try to bang it back in and out a couple of times. It's getting better. It still sticks. Much better though. A little more WD-40, never hurt anybody. Okay, I can see a lot of rust and shit coming out of there now, but at least it's moving. Just can't get it all the way out. Moving pretty good now. It just sticks. Okay, doesn't stick there anymore. It sticks all the way back here. Ah, that got it. All right. I still can't get it all the way off, but at least it's free. Okay, it's working. It just has the clutch and the brake at the same time. And you can lock it down. So I think I'm just going to pull it up a little bit. So mechanically, that's it, all except for that front wheel. And it's starting to move a little better. It's still tight, but at least it's moving. And I tried to put lube. You can see where I tried to lube it up here, but it's clogged or something. So I'm going to take that Zerk fitting off and see if I can get some stuff sprayed in there. I put WD-40 and it seems like a little of the grease got in there and it helped a little bit, but at least it's turning. So I think I'll just take the Zerk fitting off, see if I can get some lube in there, see what's clogged up, and maybe that'll free it up. Okay, so I am back on this front tire again, and I went in and took the, you can see I took the Zerk fitting off of it, and it was pretty clogged up in here. I'm just using a little pin, sewing needle, whatever, and it was jammed shut in there. Of course, that's only getting down at the bottom half of it. Well, maybe it's working. It looks like it's seated all the way down this time. Remember that when I first took the clip up, it was jammed way up here, and there was a gap between the ring and the housing. Well, at least we're getting somewhere on it. Guess I'll just let it soak for a while, and then maybe I can drop it down and see what shape the, I don't know if there's going to be bearings or is it a bushing. Whichever way, I'll bet I can clean them up and get it turning a little easier. I can tell it's a little better than it was, but it's still pretty tight. I want to see if I got the Zerk fitting unclogged. Yeah, that got it. Look at the crap that's oozing out of it. Ooh, much better. Alright, so I think I got hoping that I got a lot of the crappy stuff flushed out of there. Much better. Alright, so I got it all put back together. Sorry about the AC over there again. Yeah, so I got it put back together. Mechanically, everything is working. Looks like I need to find a knob. Maybe I'll 3D print one and see if that'll work. But everything's working. I might take it and get some engine degreaser and clean up the engine. I know it runs pretty well. I'm hoping the battery's still charged. I guess I can charge it back up, but it's kind of an older battery, but it held a charge for quite a long time. So, and the steering is loose. So it's steering very well. And so far, the only thing, the hood comes out pretty good. When you look real close, you can see where a lot of bugs. I mean, this sat outside overnight, and I lopped off a bunch of bugs that had landed on it. And this, the only thing, yeah, like right here, I didn't take the time to properly strip it down and sand it and all that good stuff. Maybe I'll do that at a later date. And the tires, the outside looks good, but you can see the insides. So I'll probably take the tires off one of these days and repaint those and then put a new seat on it. The deck is looking pretty good. I just took off the blades, sharpened them and balanced them. There's a lot of surface rust here, so I might go over it with that rust converter. You know, I thought about putting undercoat on it, and although it looks good, I just don't think undercoat does a whole lot, because it needs to be a slicker surface so when you're mowing, the grass and everything doesn't stick to it. I think with the undercoat, grass and debris will tend to stick onto it a little more, and of course that will cause rust. So I'm just going to go over it with the rust converter and see how that does. But the blades are in great shape, and the belts has some overspray on them, but they're in good shape. The spindles I did, you can see under here, yeah, there's the Zerk fitting, and so I lubed them up, and I went over it with some, this front edge is still wet. I had painted the top side of it a week ago or so, so it's almost ready. I guess I could take it out for a spin, because it'll take a while for that paint to dry. I'm ready to put it back together, and that's how it will sit for a little while. But I know I'm going to use it, so the little John Deere emblem is gone. That'd be kind of nice to find that, but no big rush. But almost done. Alright, so I made sure all the wheels had air in them. This one on the right rear was kind of low, and it is kind of an old tire. Those two are mediocre. This left one is pretty new. But I haven't even checked the lights yet, but let's get it cranked. Oh, I put the choke on. I'm trying to do this with one hand. There it goes. Brakes are working. I don't have the mowing deck on it yet. There's fifth. Not too awfully fast, is it? It's running pretty good. On the street, it's kind of funny, on the street it feels like it's going so slow, but then when you get in the yard it feels like it's hauling butt. But alright, so it's running pretty good. The only thing I need to do now is to put the mowing deck on it and make sure the clutch is turning on and off. And I did check it earlier, and I could hear it engage. But you just never know until you put a load on it, you know. But there's my cat. He keeps all the mice away and snakes. But it's looking pretty good. I think the seat's an eyesore, but I think I'll replace it one day. I mean, for the near term, I might just put a cover on it and ride it that way for a while. But I think it's looking pretty good. All right, so it's later in the day, and I finally got to get back to this thing. The paint had dried enough on the mowing deck, and I went in and put it on, and it seems to be, everything's working fine. Looks like it's a little low in the front. Just needs some adjustment. Of course, I'm sitting on a hill, kind of. You can see it's kind of leaning over. The mowing deck's up. Let's check out the lights. I haven't even checked out the lights yet. Oh yeah. There we go.